Everyone's throwing away their data.
Yeah.
Everyone's throwing it away. All this useful information is not being used for anything.
Data-driven decisions. We want to talk about how we do business. We want to talk about strategy and making decisions for our businesses. And man, it's awesome to have Eric, you, and Jake, you. Eric, you are our Chief Software Engineer, and Jake, App Development Account Executive. I know I changed that a little bit.
Sorry, you spiced it up a little bit. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's
Spiced
good.
it up.
I like it. You guys have a really, really unique perspective into business world because of your profession and what you do and how you do things. And you facilitate success to a business on a level that many, I think, small businesses don't have. So you guys, I'm so excited to be talking to you guys about this. But before we jump into a lot of like, hey, how are we doing this and what are we doing specifically? Let's talk about data-driven decisions in and of themselves. So when we're talking about data-driven decisions, there are thousands of decisions any business owner or any business leader might be making from day to day. Mm-hmm. But I think there are some very, very, very great leaders that make business decisions based off of their gut because they just follow their gut often and it has brought them success. Mm-hmm. But I think when we're talking about data-driven decisions and on an executive level, we're talking about having a gut reaction to something and then, making a decision off of that you can hit the lottery, mm-hmm. at 90% sometimes, mm-hmm. right? But then there's that 10% where you're like, how can I truly improve the decision-making that I'm making or that, we're engaged in to really create a strategy for success in my business or in my department? And so what we're talking about is really like the analytics to our business that would lead us to a strategic approach in how we do business, right? So when we're talking about, data-driven decisions, it's really does the data actually tell us about our business, and what do we do with that data to create a strategic approach to solution design? And I think that's exactly what you guys are doing on the software insight side. Is that true? Is that a fair definition?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Would you add anything to that?
I think also looking at the scale of the solution, like, you don't want to overcomplicate the solution. You don't want to have it be too simple. It has to be scaled correctly for the, what you're trying to achieve.
Sure.
So, so you're not overspending or you're not underspending and so on.
Awesome. So when I talk about data-driven manufacturing, and I just place that out in front of you, is there anything that you think of specifically?
My mind, just because my background definitely goes to the shop floor when it comes to data-driven manufacturing, and all the available data that's on the floor, whether it's through, machines, PLCs, things like that.
Yeah.
There's so much there that's available to those decision makers that maybe they're not aware of, that they can leverage to make those business decisions that we were just talking about. Sure. Analyze the data, set up schedules via the data, downtime, as Eric said, production number, all that kind of stuff is very readily available, and a lot of people aren't using it.
Something that I had asked you a question about yesterday, Jake, was I said, hey, could you give me a definition of data-driven manufacturing? Mm-hmm. And you gave me something that I think it kind of blew my socks off. Is actually really good. And it just goes to show that you know the industry well. But you said leveraging the resources available to you on the shop floor to make real-time strategic business decisions at an executive level. Mm-hmm. Could you, and Eric, could you please speak into that as well? Can you break that down for me a bit more? Like, what does that actually look like? What does that mean? I know you had just said, hey, there's a lot of data out there that maybe isn't being utilized. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about leveraging resources available to you, could you break that down and talk to me about that?
I've never been at an executive level, but I know that the data's out there. I'll say that. I think when it comes down to that is what I was thinking is production numbers and downtime. Downtime is so very expensive for any manufacturing environment, thousands of dollars an hour. When those machines are down, and the labor costs, things like that. So just recording that data, through platforms like Ignition, and even piping that data into something like Power BI, where it gives you that dashboard. To specific executives can have specific dashboards based on what their job is within that environment and what they're driving within the company. Sure. For growth and things like that, so that it's just there. You don't have to search for it. You don't have to spend a lot of time searching for it. Obviously, time is money as well.
Yeah, totally. And man, when you're talking about this stuff, so I used to be the director of operations at a place called Dutch Tree Foods. And we were able to go and visit one of our vendors that would supply us packaging materials. And I remember, this is the very early on in the manufacturing process for us. And we had a brand new facility, and we were building out teams and building out lines. And I think we installed 4 or 5 lines during my time there. We had departmentalized, and we were just starting to ask questions like, what's our throughput for one of our mixers, right? Or what's our throughput for one of the lines that we've created, a cup line that we've created? And it was really hard. I mean, I remember going out with a pad of paper, a stopwatch, right? Yeah, like, and yeah, totally. Yeah. Nice. And then not only like, it's so inaccurate, right? You go out there and like sometimes you're getting one person that's like, they're running that cup line and you get, 15 ppm. So and then the next person's at 10, and then somebody sees you out there with a stopwatch and they're like, well, I don't want to work too fast because he's going to set my quota, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. So you're just like wrestling with all of that stuff. Sure. And but I remember going to one of our vendors, and Ignition. You got me fired up because I'm talking about Ignition. Like, I love Ignition. I remember going to one of our vendors or our partners, and I remember seeing their lines, and they were, goodness, probably a good 20 years advanced to us on the technology side of things. And I walked in that facility, and there was a screen on every single line, a TV screen, probably about a 45-inch TV screen. I just remember being like, oh my goodness. And each one of those, 45-inch screen TVs or 50-inch screen TVs, they had cells, and they were either green or red or yellow. And it was so fascinating to me because if there was a changeover, it was yellow. If it was like down waiting for maintenance, it was red, and it's blinking red. And there's like no way that the line operator or the director of operations or the, that shift supervisor doesn't know that line's not down. And not only that, but then the lines that were running, every time there was, a minute would go by, it would give you that, hey, this is your PPM. Every time there was a cycle of the machine, it was counting that cycle. I remember a cell that was for a press specifically. It was counting down the hits for when they needed maintenance, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" The level of visibility that you have on that scale can really impact how you're facilitating your operations, how you're facilitating maintenance, how you're going to forecast that line or whatever it might be, how you're going to schedule. Yep. So sorry, I'm
no, I love it. I love it.
You've got me all amped up about it. Like, I love that. So yeah. I wanted to read a statistic, and I forgot to do it earlier on, but I wanted to get your reaction out of it. And I'm just going to shut up. And I'm like, even if you need time to think, like, please think about it. Because it was really, really surprising to me. And I shared it with Jake already, but I want to read this to you and get your reaction. And I just want to know, like, is this surprising to you? Is it not? And then from there, I'll ask more questions, like why. But okay, so here's the statistic that I have. So this is a statistic from ClueTrack, and they say 91% of businesses say that data-driven decisions are crucial to their business. So 91% of businesses in the United States of America say data-driven business decisions are crucial to the way that we do business, okay? Out of that 91%, 57% say that the data is the best basis for their business decision making. So 91% say, hey, we have to have data-driven decisions. 57% say it is the best way to make decisions. Here's the kicker. Are you ready? 44% of that 91% of the businesses actually utilize their data fully to make best practices in decision making.
Why is the response so much higher than the execution?
You got it.
What?
So everybody says we believe it. Like we believe 91% of these businesses in the United States say we believe best practice is data-driven decisions.
And only half of them freaking do anything.
Less than half.
Less than half.
44% of them are actually utilizing their data fully.
Oh man, that sounds really bad.
Don't you want to spank some people?
Spank.
Is it
Well,
surprising?
No, because I mean,
People are all
I-
talk.
well, when you're, I mean, when you're management, you only have so much data you can go off of. So
Okay.
you're gonna go off of sales, on-time shipping, some of the high-level data, right?
Sure.
Like, oh, what are we gonna forecast? You know, I mean,
Sure,
like
sure.
those kind of things. So you could say that's data, but I mean, is there a reason we didn't hit that on-time delivery?
Okay.
Oh, it's because this machine was down. Well, you didn't know that, did you? Well, how will you prevent that machine from not going down? Oh, it went down because it overheated. Oh, why weren't you monitoring the temperature of the machine?
So you're saying then there may be a disconnect, or oftentimes what you're seeing is there's a disconnect from what management is seeing to what the operations tech might be seeing.
Yeah, and the correlation of the shop floor data is usually not exposed to management.
Okay.
Because from an OT perspective, it's you don't really want to show the bad things, right?
Tell me why.
Because you don't really want to be transparent and you don't want to get fired,
Yeah.
right? But if you have a mess up and you have a plan to a corrective action plan, for instance.
Yeah.
And you can come to the table and say, I saw these data points. I know that we're not that temperature. That machine's not going to go hot anymore. We're going to be proactive. And we got alerts set up now for monitoring that data. We're going to always make that on-time delivery because we are closely monitoring this critical piece of equipment
Yeah.
that cannot go down.
Yeah.
Right? All businesses have a machine like that. It's really the metrics, how you want to drive your business and your employees to all go and achieve the goals and measurable goals. If you can't measure the goal, it's just like you might as well not have any data, right?
Sure.
I mean, you can't measure an employee or the machine or whoever based on data that they don't have any control over.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, we all have seen it. Probably operators go, "Oh yeah, we'll just turn that feed rate, down a little bit, and then I don't have to, work as hard."
Sure.
But if you had a trigger on that speed, you captured that event. You could ask them to report on it. Why did you turn it down?
Yeah, what happened? What was
wrong? What was wrong? And it's always like, those production meetings are always like, all right, well, we didn't something for yesterday, and this is what we got to do today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure we don't make the same mistakes as yesterday as today, right?
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yep. Totally.
But if you're not capturing any events, or if it's not I wouldn't say not real time-ish.
Yeah.
Like, for example, writing down process data in a logbook.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know what happened. Let me go grab the logbook.
Yeah.
And this still happens today.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
For
still,
sure.
it's a good interim solution, but not a long-term solution.
Yeah. Yep.
Because that data is going to be, if you're going to enter that into your ERP system, or if you're issuing raw materials to the job or something like that, and you haven't taken that out of inventory, well, there could be an inventory shortage
Sure.
that no one realizes in the purchasing department.
Yeah.
So you just because that's delayed 2 days, let's say your lead time is 3 days, you don't have enough time to react, especially with having minimal inventory or just in time inventory, and you didn't record that. Yeah, that matters, because Or what if you didn't write it down at all, or you didn't write it down correctly,
Sure.
or you can't read it? I just like, all those I've seen
Yeah.
and are easy to correct, and just one step closer to, getting better data.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Jake, what about you? Have you seen that where you're from, where maybe a tech's working really hard to just try to make sure that the machine is going, even if there is downtime, but for some reason there might be a gap between the management and what they're seeing and what's actually happening out on the floor? And if you have, how have you seen that gap kind of come together?
I've never really worked in like a high production environment,
Okay.
so it's tough for me to speak on that. But to Eric's point, that data is obviously very important, and it can kind of give you a reason. It can give you that why, right? Why was it a slower day? You changed the feed rate. That's why it's a slower day. Why'd you change the feed rate? Let's make that connection and communicate that. And with the data that's available out there, that's something you can do.
I would just like the slowing or speeding up of the feed tray or whatever it was called in this example. Is that something that's typically data collected, or like it sounds like we're going off a logbook and we're kind of just using the example, hey, the logbook said this, the feed tray was slower or faster or whatever.
Yeah.
But that I'm if someone who's not super familiar with manufacturing but has been learning over the time, I feel like that's a data point collection area, right?
Oh,
When the feed tray speeds up or slows down.
Yeah,
and
for
then there's
sure.
going to be a reason why. Maybe the data isn't the why, obviously, but it
For sure.
sparks the, hey, we need to go down this
Yeah.
road to talk to this person
Yep.
because they're the one in charge of the
Yep.
speed.
That's right.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify
and,
that to make sure
and
I
if you're
understood.
not monitoring it, like,
Then it could be people can make things up and then you just get
sure,
not the truth, right?
Right.
Is my assumption.
yeah,
Let's
and
just
sometimes it's slower for good reasons. So
Yeah.
There could be a very good reason. Someone
Yeah.
was injured and they had to slow everything down, but they didn't want to stop it. Or I'm just throwing that out there. I have no idea.
or they changed over material, or
Yeah,
you
fair.
know,
There
or
could be legit reasons
Yep.
as long as you know what they are.
there's
Yep.
new tooling,
Because then you can use that info to help the slowdown to begin with. Now that you understand it, right?
It just
Yeah,
allows transparency between floor and shop floor and top floor, right? It allows that transparency without question.
Yeah, and I think something to park on and highlight for a second is I really don't believe, and I think we're right now we're at risk of sounding like, oh goodness, the techs or the shop floor, they're constantly trying to make things slower or not move, and I don't believe that to be true.
No.
I think most of the techs are out for the good of the company, and I've seen it all over in every several manufacturing places that I've worked in and also toured and all that stuff. There are so many people that really do believe in their company, but
Sure.
I think what I'm hearing you say is that the data itself provides an opportunity to communicate, right? You're like, hey, okay, I noticed that this was downtime and it was only down for 15 minutes, but what happened? And then from there you can start making the decision. Well, shoot, my kinetic weld wheel went out and I had to replace that. And you're like, okay, well,
Perfect.
cool. Then, when did we change that last? Oh, we changed it last, month and a half. So we're at like 6 weeks. Okay. Well, then what we can do then is start to remember that we get about 6 weeks out of those wheels, out of those copper wheels.
Yep.
And so then we're sending a reminder, 5 weeks and 4 days into it and saying, hey, change
Maintenance.
this at your earliest convenience.
Yeah,
or
maintenance
whatever.
schedules, right? You're setting up those accurate
Yeah.
maintenance schedules to keep things running rather than being You're being proactive at that point
Yeah.
rather than reactive.
Yeah, totally. What do you, Eric, you got something?
yeah, and just because those situations come up and you didn't collect the data, it's anyone's guess, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what data should you log? Well, how about we start with what shouldn't you log?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, space is affordable. Logging, what's your frequencies, and then it's not just like you put something in, collect data, and it's a magic,
Answer to things.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you have to refine it and making sure that you're getting the correct result, but then enough data so if you have to look back, you can see the different data points that, oh, this one correlates with this particular event, and it's only going to happen if let's say you have a defect on a part and there's there's some pressures or something that you're seeing an anomaly on, like it's not, stamping correctly in a corner or something
Yeah.
like that, where you can, now you can, okay, we collected the data, we know what the root cause is, we can now set up alerts and proactively look for this before it gets out of control. Right?
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked a lot about, the ability and the capability that we have to capture the data, right? So we're talking about machines, we're talking about, tech, maintenance and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What does it look like? Like if you could describe it to me, I don't want to, as a director of business, of operations, I don't want to look at a spreadsheet every month, because the spreadsheet, number one, it's boring to me. And number two, there's so much data there. Like, what am I actually going to sift through to make decisions? How do you make it comprehensible so it's useful data for, somebody in operations?
Power BI, baby.
Yeah, Power BI. I mean, there's some,
Tell me about it.
drilling into the data. So you take your high level data and you say, oh, we got some rejects in this particular machine. Well, what was going on with that machine? You drill into that. And what's the top 10, out of control process data that you want to look at? And you could drill into that as well.
So is that in like a bar graph? Is that in like a line graph? Like, how are you displaying that?
It's in Power BI, I'm assuming you're looking
Yeah.
at it, right?
Yeah, it can be a variety of different visuals. They have out of the
Customize
box, yeah. So bar graphs, line graphs, pie graph. I mean, all
Venn graphs?
Venn graphs,
Ooh.
Gantt charts.
Yeah.
Gantt charts?
Okay, Gantt charts. Okay, cool.
Legit.
Cool.
Yeah.
And this is stuff that you can present not only on, just a PC, but is that stuff that you see or that you do put on like on a line with a monitor there?
Oh, yeah. So we create HMIs and, dashboards for the shop and the teams to constantly monitor. So there's no, when you have your team meet, usually there's a team huddle in the morning and,
Sure.
And you review the data from yesterday or whatnot, or what can we do to improve or whatever. Those kind of things, you give them the tools and then the team really executes, the results for you.
Sure.
And if they want, they know what you're looking at. They know that their data. Like,
Say that again. They know, that they know, we know their data.
Do we
well,
know? though?
but you used to think they didn't know the data,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now everybody knows all these things.
Yeah.
It's right.
So, and like collecting the data, there's no excuses anymore. Everyone's throwing away their data.
Yeah.
Everyone's throwing it away. All this useful information
Sure.
is not being used for anything.
Okay, so stop there for a second, because I want to park on that. And I think because I can sense passion in that for you. Obviously, you've been in data development for years and years on end. That makes you sound old. You're not old. You have a tremendous amount of experience in it. And so I can sense that, you have a passion for people understanding what to do with the data that they have.
Right.
What would your encouragement be to somebody that's in operations who's dealing with their day-to-day and maybe quite often not even thinking like, for them, it might be, I just need to get production out. Like, I don't have the ability to look at my data right now. I just need to make sure that I'm making orders so I can make shipment. What would your encouragement be to someone in that position?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I've been there. I haven't been in software my whole life. I've been in engineering, product development.
Okay.
And back in the day, I was a CNC machinist. So,
Okay.
So I know production, but the data the not tribal knowledge, but domain knowledge of that, let's say, particular machine. Like, you have your legacy employees, utilize them and know I know when this thing vibrates in a certain way, I need to change a belt or something.
Yeah.
Or I see the chatter, I see the something.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say they retire. Now that that you need to capture that
Yeah.
because
Dang.
quality data, if you
So even that kind of stuff is data to capture.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
yeah.
data you're not capturing, or
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
something that is making you great,
Yeah.
and you're kind of ignoring it. you
Yeah.
know? So,
Yeah.
but to utilize your people to the fullest, I think is your biggest asset, because you don't have time. But I'll guarantee there's people on your floor that really care and really want to help and will give you insights into, hey, it'd be great if we could get the temperatures or the
Yeah.
or the voltage or the amperage of a motor. Oh, that thing's overheating, or it's drawing too many amps, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all data that you are probably connected to.
Yeah.
You're just not utilizing it.
Sure.
Yeah,
fully.
and what Eric's saying too there, I think we've dealt with that quite a few times where we have clients reach out with legacy equipment that, oh yeah, Jim, the maintenance guy who hasn't been here for 25 years, created this himself, and
Wow.
nobody else. There's
Wow.
no documentation on it. There's no nothing. So
Yeah.
they call on us and people like Eric to dig into that. But
Okay.
to Eric's point, leverage those people and take, not, I don't want to say take advantage of, but document it, utilize it.
Yeah.
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 Eric, I love what you said there, especially because it builds a bit more trust and a bit more relationship. I think every manufacturing plant I've ever seen, there's always a bit of a disconnect between management or anybody that works in the office to anybody that works on the shop floor, because I think to a certain extent, shop floor is like, oh, you'll never know the pressures of what we're dealing with, and then office is like, well, you'll never know the pressures of what we're dealing with, knowing that they're dealing with different pressures. But the cool thing about data itself is it actually brings people to the table to solve the problem together, and that's what I love.
Yes.
I think that's what I love about Ignition, like being able to say, hey, this is what we're seeing. Number one, I'm not blaming you as the tech for this. Like, let's just come to the table and figure it out together. Like, that's what I love about the data-driven aspect of
Trav,
of
do you
that.
think people might be, I don't want to say scared, but maybe nervous, shy, slow on picking up more data entry points because they're going to shed light on things like...
Oh, to a certain extent, yeah.
Yeah, so you know
yeah.
what I mean? Of course you want to be able to fine-tune and correct mistakes, but yeah, you get someone that's been working on the line for 10 years and they have their way of doing it. It's not efficient. They might be unwilling to cooperate with more data collection because they might realize it might shine a light on me.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm the point of contention
Yeah.
here,
Well,
slowing it down.
I think you
and
nailed
that's
it.
maybe an exaggeration, but maybe similar things.
To that.
Yes, and so that's
Well,
just a management understanding it all, right?
Yeah, those type of people, you make them part of the solution. You make them part of your project team, or your focus.
Don't make them the villain that
you
you're the
just-
reason
like,
why.
You point the finger at the data.
Yeah. I love it.
I love
Yeah.
that way of thinking of it.
I mean, there's a reason why one of these things happen.
You got it.
And someone knows it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, you
Eric,
just,
no, that makes sense.
That makes so much sense, and because you're not there. If you are a teammate, you're going to be a teammate, right?
Yeah.
And so let's not make, like you said, the person the villain, but it's actually the data that's the problem, and how do we solve it? How do we solve the problem with the data?
Right.
There's one thing that I would say to a director of operations or somebody in operations that's like, I can't afford to be thinking about the data because I just need to make production. My encouragement to that person, because I remember feeling and thinking that way, my encouragement to that person would be, you can't afford not to start looking at data.
Sure.
Because the reality of it is the data will tell a story, and then it gives you the opportunity to identify whether it's a bottleneck here, or maybe it is just a person thing because it is such a manual process, or it is a maintenance thing that you have to take care of. That data is so important to become more and more efficient.
Right, and to save that person time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of going back to Power BI, you can have individual dashboards or reports that are based on your individual KPIs, right?
Yeah.
So you're opening that dashboard. Go ahead, Terry.
I just had a thought about that on Power BI is like that data you collected from the floor. I mean, so what we do is in a data warehouse, for instance, you would take the manufacturing data, the ERP data, manual entry data, and you merge those together, and you get a good story.
Yeah.
You don't have like, oh, I don't know what those guys in manufacturing did, like, or whatever, or what did purchasing do? They didn't get us enough material. Well, we didn't know there wasn't enough material because you didn't do that, or whatever,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but if you can take those, those different sets of data and put them together in a nice, Power BI that tells a story of what happened.
Yeah.
There's something you could put gauges on and do all these fancy things, but if it's just, if you're not all focused on these different like KPIs or different things that happened, that you can not worry about the things that are going well. I mean, let's look at this particular area and, you could drill down into the different facets of it. And a lot of people, like in manufacturing, they don't have access usually to the ERP data.
Right.
I mean, what if you gave them some of that data in demand? Like, oh crap, this job is coming up next week. I got to make sure,
Right.
Hey, purchasing person, make sure they do this right. Like, make sure they get the right grade steel or whatever for the job.
Like they could add notes to whatever it is for later for someone to pay attention to.
Sure. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they might be third shift working, right? And it
Yeah.
might be 3 a.m. when this epiphany pops up, or hey, they're doing this. I have the data. I have a way to input something for the team.
Or maybe
Yeah.
the tooling's not even ready and they don't even know that. Like,
Yeah.
Like,
It allows for that transparency.
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like Travis was saying, there's always a disconnect between the shop floor and the front office, always. But having something like Power BI where everybody can see what's kind of going on, and you can understand what the front office is doing, and the front office can understand what the shop floor is doing. It builds a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And I mean, your job in management is to take away those obstacles.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what obstacles to take away,
Yeah.
you don't. Like, my job is to make us be on time, good quality, efficiencies and all that good stuff. And that's our sole purpose. We can just, remove those things that are hindering those, so.
This is what I love so much about who we are as a company, because we are, our mission here is to transform businesses by adding value to technology, impacting lives and creating success. And so the funny thing is even talking about data-driven decision-making, gathering that data is that added value to technology, which then is a success itself, right? Because then you can start making data-driven decisions. But then on top of that, you're talking about bringing a culture together that since the industrial boom back in the day has probably always experienced a certain amount of tension. And so even in the capturing the data itself, it actually allows you to bring your culture together, which I love about Insight. And that's what you guys are so good at it. So I want to play a game with you guys. And I have the top 5 reasons here for the lack of efficiency in manufacturing. So I want to read these off, and I want you guys to just give me kind of your initial thoughts at what actually surprises you the most about one of the reasons, or we can park on one of the reasons that you're like, oh, that one surprises me the most. And then I want to talk to you about the one that surprises me the least. Okay, so top 5. Number 1, outdated processes and lack of automation. Number 2, machine quality and performance. Number 3, excessive inventory and ineffective inventory management. Number 4 is inadequate planning and scheduling or capacity planning. And then number 5 is a lack of innovation and failure to adopt new technologies. Any of those stick out to you?
I don't think one of those sticks out upon the others. I don't think any of them surprised me.
Okay.
No, they sound all about right. I mean,
Excess inventory, how can that affect anything?
It's
that's
Great question.
So excess inventory, for
Yeah.
instance, let's relate it to Insight Business Solutions.
Okay.
So let's say you ordered
I can
1,000 computers and you're just holding them in the back office.
that
If you're not moving those computers, that's just
you're sitting.
sitting on it, right?
Yeah.
So
That makes
you're
way
not.
more sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as soon as you start talking,
Yeah.
it kind of puts it together.
yeah, you got all that the money or
yeah.
those assets tied up. Yeah,
It's not cash or in the bank. It's
Sure.
in physical some inventory. at the
Exactly.
Yep.
office.
And until
Exactly.
Or wherever.
And the reason people do that is because they're covering up
something else.
something else.
There's a reason for it.
There's a reason why, like, you can't do just-in-time inventory if you don't have accurate data,
Yeah.
accurate reporting. You can do, you can try to bring it down, but everyone has safety stocks, and for one reason or another. I mean, lead time, if it's a long lead time item, that might be, reason to have, but you kind of can do the best you can do, right?
Or even
Yeah.
in some levels, what I've experienced in the past too is like, hey, the excessive inventory is actually covering up a bottleneck, right?
Yeah.
So we've got excessive inventory here because, the
Supply
next
chain.
step in the process, or this press that we have can only run so fast,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And so, but the mill's pushing out bumpers
Yep.
immediately, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, we have 30,000 bumpers that are in whip right now that all need holes in them because we can't get it through this press.
Right.
And I mean, that's an easy way to identify the bottleneck, but that is, some type or some reasons why we might have excessive
For sure.
inventory.
For
Yeah,
sure.
but I mean, think if you're not reporting that, those process steps, you'd never know it.
Yeah.
I mean, it would just be like,
Business
oh,
as
it's
usual.
not done. I mean, but you haven't tracked through the process where it's at,
Yeah.
and looking to see like the whole manufacturing time that it took to produce it, and time is money
Yeah.
compared to what you estimated and what your budget is. I mean, that goes directly to profitability. I
Yeah.
mean, really.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Okay, so last thing here, before we kind of wrap up, the one that surprised me least, and I think we would probably share this in general because we've seen it in business, not just in manufacturing, but in business in general, is the lack of openness to adopt new technology. Talk to me about your experience with that, Eric and Jake.
everyone gets complacent.
Mhm.
I think that's
Complacency kills, though.
How would you? What would you do? What would your recommendation be, Eric, for somebody that might be in that role of operations manager, director, supervisor, whatever that might be, that might feel, if they're honest with themselves, they might feel a little bit resistant to bringing on new technology because it might be maybe another headache, maybe something else to manage, or any of that stuff. What would your recommendation to them be?
I think get them more involved with the process. I mean, have them be in the meetings and help them understand what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
If you try to do it without transparency, it might make things worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because management's putting in spy tools.
Yeah.
Management's
Sure.
doing this.
Is that what they might think sometimes? Like spy? You've
Well,
heard that before?
No, but I mean, I'm just thinking what they're like.
Possibility could
They're monitoring me.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
doing these things. They're trying to watch me. Whatever.
Big
Whatever.
Brother.
No,
this,
but
that, and the other thing.
but if it's transparent what you're collecting and why you're doing it, and we need your help to make this better. I mean, if you're not getting good information from the floor of those changeovers or those downtime reasons, it's going to be, it's going to just be garbage collected data.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much. It is, I mean, we could probably go on and on and on and talk about this kind of stuff because I love it. You love it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've had some really great experiences with clients doing some pretty amazing things with the solutions that you guys have designed as well. Thank you so much for your time, Jake, Eric. You guys are fantastic at what you do. I can't wait to see more success for both our clients, colleagues, and our community. You guys are killing it. So
Cool.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
And with that, you guys, we have something that anybody listening can go catch up with us and join us to learn a little bit about simplifying project management with M365. So with your Microsoft licensing, understanding, and tools, learn how to leverage Loop Teams and Planner to collaborate efficiently. So maybe, if my understanding, this might be more of a front office type collaboration that's going to help the shop floor
Sure.
in data entry. Potentially, this could be a start to understanding more conversations funneling it down, right?
Creating decisions for your
Tuesday-
project, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. Everyone come join us. Register free online at www.trustedinsight.com/events. The cost is free. It's a 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. workshop. We're going to be at Grand Rapids, Michigan, the United Bank Corporate Office Community Room. And we've had one event there before.
It was awesome.
Fantastic.
It was, yeah.
It was good.
Yep.
Address is 900 East Paris, South Avenue, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49546. But just check out the website. Register. It is free. It's awesome. Learn a little bit more on how you can make data-driven decisions.